have a very interesting topic for you today. And while this is not directly connected to the Gita and the Upanishad, it is linked to it. I'm talking about a survey that was done by the Pew Research Center, which is an organization out here in Washington, D.C., around public policy, religion, and everything. They conducted a survey a couple of years ago. And what caught my attention was not the usual stuff that a lot of folks jumped upon, particularly on parity of religion and comparison. All of that, it's a different discussion. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to focus more on the aspects that are linked to the Gita and the Upanishad coming out of that survey. I think you'll find it interesting. Let me go through some of the main points of the survey, and I for sure was fascinated by what came out of this. I also have put a link to the entire 233-page survey report, which, by the way, I ended up reading it. I've read it in the past. I read it again in preparation for this video as well. So let's look at what the report is about. Just very briefly about the report. This was a survey done by talking to 30,000 individuals all across India in 16 or 17 different languages in pretty much every state of India. And it had a variety of questions, several of them related to religion and gods, scriptures, practices. And I think it's important for us to know about this because as overseas Indians or as Indians listening in India, the cultural heritage is in our genes. It carries on. So the aspects of what 30,000 Indians, which is a sizable sample size, particularly for a survey of like this across 16 languages, I think it's important to understand what the sentiments were and what the thoughts were expressed there. So again, I'm not going to go into the other aspects of the survey of parity of religions and which religion is growing fast and all of that. I'm not there. I'm more focused on what relates to this channel. So let's start off with this. Let's start with a very, very interesting question. Who is your favorite god? Was a question asked. And I was not surprised by the answer, but you may be. Krishna doesn't even come in the top 4 or 5, top 4 actually. Krishna doesn't even appear in the top 4. Krishna comes almost like the 5th. Lord Rama comes like 6th in that order. Maybe even later actually. Krishna and Rama actually, if I remember correctly, come later. The first spot on who is your favorite god is occupied by Shiva. And 44% say Shiva is their favorite. They associate with Shiva. 35% associate with Hanuman. 32% associate with Ganapati or Ganesha. 28% associate with Lakshmi. Only 21% associate with Krishna, and only 17% associate with Rama. Now, I was not surprised, as I said, when I saw this result. And I'm not saying because why isn't Krishna in the first spot? I'm not saying because of that. I wasn't surprised that Shiva would occupy the first spot when it comes to deities with a name and form. Again, I keep stressing this, deities with a name and form, Nama and Rupa. Because the Upanishadic God, the Gita God, or the divine has both forms. You can consider it to be a name and form, or you can go beyond that as well. Shiva didn't surprise me. And the reason being, if you look at how the Hindu gods and deities have evolved over time, even through stories, Shiva is the giver. You pray, you have tapasya done. We covered in one video what tapasya means. You have tapasya towards Shiva, and then you get what you wanted. You ask for it and you get it, usually is the case. That is why even the mythological stories have pretty much everyone, and many, I wouldn't say everyone, many always worshipping or praying towards Shiva and receiving a boon from Shiva. So Shiva is a giver. And in our daily life, clearly, where we have problems to solve and everything to be taken care, we contemplate on this name and form called Shiva, and we expect that Shiva to be giving it to us. Same with Hanuman and Ganapati. Ganapati is known as the one who has the characteristics of removing obstacles. So there's more and more folks saying, you know what, let me worship Ganapati so that my obstacles are removed. Let me worship Hanuman so that I gain more power, whatever that power could mean, physical, mental, health, wealth, you name it, right? So that's all part of it. So many people associate with Shiva, Hanuman, and Ganesha. Lakshmi is the another deity where they associate with. 28% is there. Krishna falls lower. Reason being, even by the nature of Gita's Krishna, but also in the stories told about Krishna, with Krishna, it's not about receiving boons. With Krishna, it is you giving up. The whole concept of Gita is surrender, giving up. It's not about receiving. So in that sense, which is why I've always said it, I think I said it in one of my videos, following Gita is very difficult. Very, very difficult. Yes, great, it's out there, but following every aspect of Gita is difficult unless you get into a spiritual mindset, unless you get into the mode of sadhana that we covered also in one of the videos. So with Krishna, it's all about surrender. And through that surrender is where you have enjoyment. Great examples of Krishna's story is the famous story of Sudama and Krishna, where Sudama, as a friend of Krishna, even though Sudama did not have anything at his home, but when Krishna came in, he offered whatever he had. He just gave in. So with Krishna, it's all about giving, giving, giving. And in turn, Krishna takes care of it. That is the faith. That is the faith in Krishna. That's a different mindset. With Shiva, it's a different mindset. Both are, you could say, right, and both have their own roles to play. With Shiva, Shiva gives it to you and then watches. Are you true to it? With Krishna, you first give up, then you get it. So again, two different ends of the spectrum. So that is what I thought would be an interesting tidbit and one of the questions to cover. The other one, which links to Shiva and Krishna, was also this aspect of moksha or liberation. Surprising, this was a surprise to me. Surprising, only 47% believe in liberation or moksha. Much lower number than what I thought. The other one was reincarnation. Now, we would think that Hinduism by nature means people believe in reincarnation. Actually, according to the survey, it's not the case. Only 40% believe in reincarnation. Only 40% believe in reincarnation. Now let's look at some of the other topics. Whether you are financially secure or not, most of the people, according to this report, they ask God for health, prosperity, and forgiveness. 93% actually responded to this. Health, prosperity, and forgiveness. Then the other aspect is 29% said they believe only in one God. 61% thinks there is one God with manifestations. And 7% think, only 7% think there's this aspect of many gods. 29%. And by the way, when I'm referring to these percentages, it's all in the individuals who claim themselves to be following the Hindu religion. So I want to make that clear as well. 29% is one God, 61% is one God with manifestations, 7% is many gods. Another surprising number, in the south of India, 18% believed there are many gods, 18%, higher than any other region of India. The next one was around God manifesting in nature, animal, and people. 76% believe that God can manifest in nature. 68% believe that God can manifest in animals, and 67% believe God can manifest in people. Interesting, isn't it? 76, 68, and in people it came down to 67. Nature and animals took on a higher aspect there. Then the next one was around religion, how important it is. 84% of the respondents said religion is very important. Now, the south of India, again, in this case at the least, and only 69% said religion is important. So the rest of India had a higher percentage where they said religion is important. South of India had a much lower percentage of that. The other one was around eating habits, root vegetables. We covered a video. We have a video on that, root vegetables. 21% abstain from eating any type of root vegetable. But in the north of India, 35% actually abstain. It's a higher number than the rest of India who abstain from root vegetables. Religious ceremonies. This is something that I would like to cover in another video. I think there are 16 religious ceremonies, by the way, in anybody's life. In my view, 4 out of the 16 are the most important. Interestingly, this survey had 3 of the 4. And when they did a survey on this, they found that 76% of the people felt a naming ceremony was absolutely critical. 86% felt a wedding ceremony was very critical. 85% felt a death ceremony was very critical. There's a few other things that caught my attention. One is, it is more so in the Sikhism philosophy that religious instruction or spiritual instruction, because religion and spiritual are different, by now you would have understood it. Religious instruction and spiritual instruction was more delivered in a structured manner, even at home, when it comes to Sikhism, as an example. And in Hinduism, it was way, way lower in terms of that number. That caught my attention. The other thing that caught my attention was around 42% believe in miracles. More women believed in miracles than men. That also caught my attention. The other one that caught my attention was 56% of the folks believed in heaven. In the concept of 56% believed in this concept of heaven. Let me close with one thing. In going through this 233-page report, what concerned me, again, I'm ignoring all the other parity of religions, who is growing faster and all of that. I'm leaving that to the side. But just looking at the responses of folks who considered themselves to be Hindus, the concern I have is reading or listening to scriptures, developing that aspect of spirituality, or in general, just reading and listening. Shravana and Manana are the 2 terms for that. Reading and listening. Contemplation is the third part of it, which is the next step. But just this reading and listening, only 28% of the survey responses said they either read or listen to religious scriptures or even spiritual teachings. That's a very concerning number, because the whole aspect as to how one can elevate themselves in their personal life, professional life, in all aspects of life, is through inquiry, is through listening, is through reading, listening, and contemplation. So that lower number is definitely a concern, and hopefully a channel like this will help in closing some of that gap.